Bienvenidos, damas y caballeros. Welcome back to Freeform Radio on that Freeform network. Remember to follow us on Facebook and X at Freeform Network. Send in those questions and suggestions, ffnquestions@gmail.com. But again, for Freeform Radio, my name is Daniel. I got today here Noel.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us for another one.
And we got Andy.
It's all good, Andy. Everybody, I hope everybody had a good New Year's. And we're here to rock another year. We're just chugging along, man.
Holy smokes. I was just going to mail this one in, but I guess I have to bring it up a little bit.
Gotta start off the year with a bang here.
Heck yeah, man. But no, you're right, man. Let's get this party started. It was a good year, and let's continue that trend going on. We're going to start it off with Andy. Mini retro consoles. What happened with it? Fill us in on your story here.
So, I mean, y'all remember when Nintendo released the NES Mini? Man, it's like, what, 7 years ago now? Maybe 5? It's been a while. That started like this whole new trend of the gaming companies releasing like an actual hardware retro with preloaded games, and people went crazy, and it started this trend. And Nintendo went on to make the Super Nintendo. Sega made the Genesis, then they made another one, the Genesis 2, and even PlayStation got into it with the PS1. And like it went on, and people were excited. They were waiting for more. In Japan, they made the Famicom retro. People got excited for that, and people are excited about retro gaming. I mean, I'm older. I like the retro gaming. I like playing some of that stuff. I actually love the plug and play games. I know you guys like are I got a PlayStation 4 or 5. I don't game as much of the new one. Like I might play a Call of Duty here and there, but the sports stuff I don't play. But I love me 8-bit, 16-bit, N64. All that. So there's been a lot of speculation in that community. I noticed it pop up on my feed on YouTube a lot the last month. Like what happened? What happened? We're like people are waiting for the N64 version. They're waiting for Sega Saturn and Dreamcast and PlayStation to do a PS2 one, but they don't seem to do it. And there's a lot of talk within that community, like what's going on. So, I mean, I got the NES Mini, I got the Super Nintendo Mini, I do have the PlayStation 1, I do have the Sega. I mean, I don't think you got any of that. I know, I'm pretty sure, I think Noel didn't either. He probably got the ROMs and all that. Did you guys jump on that hype train and just to see, what's to get some of that, to play retro, or you guys just do the online thing or the emulation thing?
Yeah, no, I mainly stuck with emulation, and I think I mentioned before in a different episode the Steam Deck that I got. It's pretty much like a portable PC, and it's got the ability to play emulated games in there. So pretty much everything you mentioned, I have that plus more, and it's a good value for it. But I do see the nostalgia in like a mini console and like the mini NES, and if you had like a Super NES, all that stuff. I get the nostalgia, so it's like there is a market for it.
Yeah, I didn't know you had so many mini consoles. I picked up the NES one, but that's where I ended. I was gonna pick up a PlayStation one because I'm a PlayStation fan, but it was such a weak console that I didn't end up picking it. Now, I wouldn't mind having it just so I can have like the collector's item, the little mini, and I'll just put it up for display because it looks kind of cool to have the little mini console. The Nintendo one, I just keep it out and I don't have it plugged in or anything. I just keep it as a display unit. So I wouldn't mind the PlayStation, but since they kind of bombed a little bit, they're kind of hard to get by, and I don't want to really pay a lot of money. But yeah, man, surprised to hear that you picked up so many, even the Genesis one, because you're right. There was a ton of them, a 3DO one.
Yeah, I've heard of the 3DO, and I think TurboGrafx
TurboGrafx came out
tried
with
one, or
one.
they released one, but it was like wasn't a lot of hype around it. And I don't know if they did a lot of them, but I know people talked about them in some of these videos that I watched.
I think the problem is that they cost some money because you got to produce it, distribute it, and I'm guessing they didn't make good profits on it, so that's why that market kind of dried up, and
No,
didn't
well,
continue.
yeah, that they did some of the videos that talk about that they made decent money. Um, the so one of the I want to talk about too, like that's one of the theories then, but some of the videos I saw kind of like not disprove it. It's just they want to focus on other they don't want to focus so much back on retro. They want to be like, get the Switch, get this. Sega's like, we're gonna come out with new games. We're a software company. We're not a hardware company. Like we make games and stuff like that. And the other thing is like also the other thing I kind of like love, but I haven't bought was I see all these videos on arcade one-up cabinets. And to me, like I want one so bad, but they came out so quick and sold so quick. The aftermarket, second market stuff is like pricing is like through the roof. And they started like not fell off, but their licensing games are not the. I think they came out with like a Wheel of Fortune one, like recent, the most newest one. But when they came out with like Blitz, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, I mean, sales were crazy. The Simpsons and the X-Men ones, like people were buying them up like crazy. Now that's kind of fallen off, but I think there is a market for this. I know Sega came out and they asked them, why haven't you released um, Saturn or Dreamcast minis? And the new CEO says like, we're not gonna focus on that. We're thinking of future stuff down the road. We want to look towards the future. And they brought up IPs like the taxi game that people went crazy for, and Crazy Taxi. I don't know. I don't remember what it was called, but I saw the video. They're showing all these IPs, and they are gonna make some games for that down the road. They're updating the IP, but they're not gonna put it on those mini consoles. And Sega's a big proponent of just licensing the thing out, and they licensed like Earthworm Jim and Streets of Rage and all this stuff to some third party retailer to make like these mini like arcade things that look. I saw videos of them and look kind of flimsy. They were not like arcade one up. It was just like this tabletop one thing. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, the market is out there. A lot of people, one of the videos speculated that the reason they don't want to do it because they think it's, uh, they're going back to the well and they want to focus more on the new hardware and the new games. That's where they want people to spend their money. And I think someone posted that like a Nintendo, the online Switch or something, they haven't really put some of these games up there. I mean, I don't know, or I don't know if they have like a library of them. The Sega guy CEO did say they're gonna come up with a subscription based thing to play some of those retro games, but I found that kind of weird because I would imagine Steam would have that market, or they're pulling that stuff out. I don't know. I didn't really look that much into it. Um, but to me, I have a soft spot for this stuff. I love the retro games. Like I said, every once in a while, my wife likes it too. She likes playing Mega Man. I pop out. I got some other like cheap consoles that's on there. She'll play that for a little bit. Um, but yeah, man, to me, it was like such hype, and it was like they were Nintendo especially, and then they're like, well, was the N64, and they really haven't said anything about that. I don't know if it's just how if it's more money or they're just like this. We're done doing this. Let's focus on our current console and games for that.
Did you mod yours by chance, or did you keep them all original?
Now I kept them all OG. Yeah, I didn't want to fuck with them. Like I said, I played the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo. I wanted to like Nintendo, the Super Nintendo with that Star Fox too. I remember seeing pictures for that thing on like on a Game Pro, like whatever it is now, 30, 20 years ago. and I was just like, "Dang, can't wait!" And then they released the full game of it, which I thought was pretty cool. And like the Sega Genesis, they released the original Genesis here, and then in Japan they made another one, the Genesis 2 Mini or something like that. I don't know if you heard about that. They included more games, and I think some of them were more Sega CD games and stuff like that, which I haven't been able to get a hold of because it's like crazy money on the secondary market on the internet. And every once in a while, I'll keep an eye out for it. And they also released Sega released a Game Gear Mini, which I don't even know how that's possible in Japan, and it sold very well.
Yeah, I saw some of those, like the handheld
Yeah. Mhm.
consoles, and I thought that was kind of weird too. But yeah, I guess if there's people out there that are into it, then more power to them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things on the video, the retro the retro channels, they're like they don't understand, and one of them seems to think they did so well, which didn't make sense to me. Uh, that they're like, this doesn't look good for like our current product, and they're like, that's why we need to focus going forward, and like we got our return on investment on this. Like we're done. Like let's keep pushing forward our new consoles, and like we could do all this later. We could just dump it on our online thing and just have people pay subscriptions for it. We don't need to make cheap plastic or whatever because uh, we don't need to make it. But when the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo came out, the minis, I mean, there were so many like Chinese knockoffs where people are just dumping cheap ROMs and like multiple games. And I think, I mean, they were like $20. I mean, you can get those things for like $15 now. And, and people are just like buying them, or there was like some confusion with the counterfeits. Um, I bought the one of those 620 ROM one, the Nintendo, and it was okay. I mean, it had some cool games. It had like Kung Fu, like that weren't on the NS Mini. I loaned it to a coworker and I never got it back.
Oh wow.
And then he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, man. Like, I took it to the Christmas family party and the kids just started playing like RBI baseball and stuff, and they took it home with them. So he just gave me like $20 for it."
Oh wow, man. Yeah, sometimes those ROM ones, they're good, but the controllers, I don't know, I don't really
Yeah.
dig them. They're kind of cheap made, those controllers sometimes.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it is, it's crazy to think what could have been. But to me personally, I think they want to focus more on future consoles and future games and online stuff, and then to deal with that. Because to me personally, I don't think it's that difficult to make. I know the PlayStation 1, when the reviews came out, I don't know if you had a chance to play yours, Dan. They were really critical of that console, the PlayStation 1 Mini, how they were using the UK, the PAL version, UK one, the Europe one, and the frame rate, and how the emulation wasn't the best. What kind of software did they use? And they were just very critical of it. I didn't know why to this day. And I was always thought like, oh man, they're probably gonna release like a PlayStation 2 one. And they never did.
Yeah, like I mentioned, since it was so negative, I didn't even pick one up. But yeah, maybe I'll keep an eye out. Somebody that wants to get rid of one for a few bucks.
No, I mean these things are like highly sought after now. I mean they're like expensive.
Yeah, I
Um,
just I just Googled it right now and I saw some for 50, $60, and the high end it's like 100, because I believe they're $100 brand new.
yeah, the high end ones I've seen on eBay go for like 200. I mean, but they're like sealed ones. People never open them up, so like I said, it's people like I think people were buying two, one to keep sealed and one to open up. Because I know when the Nintendo, the NES Mini came out, the original one, the it sold out quickly, right? And then they made another batch. Or remember there was like this rumor that they did it intentionally for people to buy them around Christmas or something like that. It was like Nintendo like promotion to get people all riled up about it because they were so hard, and then people started modding them and it became even more popular. So Yeah, I mean that's what's going on with that. Let me know what you guys think at ffnquestions@gmail.com about that. I like the retro things. I'm hoping they come out, but realistically, it sounds like I think Nintendo moved on. Sega might license out some third party thing and might not release anything. And Sony is Sony. I don't know if they really have any thoughts on that or they're gonna do anything about it anymore because they got the PlayStation 5 and I started seeing stuff people about the gaming, the 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 professional console, and people started shitting on that too because they made a something with like better stuff, right, for the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, yeah, with the Pro
The
console,
Pro,
I know.
that yeah, that
Yeah,
one. I saw people started shitting on it. They were opening them up and shitting on it. I'm like, damn, man.
Yeah.
And that was set up to towards the hardcore gamer. So well, we'll see what happens, but let's keep this thing going. Speaking of gaming, I see Noel says something here. He the last of finished the Last of Us. I'm assuming that's the video game, not the show.
Right. Yeah, I just beat the game, I want to say a couple weeks ago. I beat it on the PS5, and coincidentally, since we were talking about the PS5 Pro, I picked that up recently, maybe about a week ago at this point now. And it's good so far. I think a lot of the flack that they've gotten for the PS5 Pro comes because a lot of the people don't have like a good enough TV to really utilize the capabilities of it. If you have VRR and you have a 120 hertz TV or monitor, both those things will kind of give like a little bit of a smoothing boost to the frame rate and make most games look even smoother and better. But the PS5 Pro in general has this game boost thing, which boosts the game. Unfortunately, when I played The Last of Us, I didn't have the PS5 Pro at the time. It was just a regular. And it was still a good game, though. Very fun. This is the remastered one. So this is the one that was made just recently. And um, if you've watched the show, it's very similar. So, some people, if you like the show, you're gonna like the game, and vice versa. If you like the game, you're gonna like the show. And so I ended up watching the show well in advance of playing the game. So it was kind of cool to be able to actually control the characters and visualize, and then compare from the original show that I watched. And it was good, man. It's a good story. It's good gameplay. If you like stealthy stuff, this has a lot of that, so it's pretty cool. Um, and I also played a few other games, and these newer titles I've played on the PS5 Pro, and I definitely noticed a difference. So RoboCop, for example, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I picked this one up a while back. I've been wanting to play it for a minute, and ever since it came out, which is already a good long time ago at this point, but RoboCop, I grew up watching the movies. I love the movies. They're cheesy, but they're nostalgic, and it's got its place in my heart. So I'm like, let me play the game. Let me see what they do with it. And it was a cool, unique story. I think I might have mentioned that I was playing it before, but I finally finished it. So I played it on the PS5 to start it off, and then when I picked up the Pro, I ended up beating it on there, and it was actually really interesting, dude. And it's got a unique story. It's kind of like picking up after number two, and it retcons three.
go
Oh,
ahead. I,
sorry.
I I can't remember even part three being that good, but part two was okay.
Yeah, part three was lackluster. A lot of people didn't like that one, and so I think because of that, the developers probably like they decided to just retcon that one and go off of number two. And so you still have your main partner. So Murphy teams up with Lewis, and they're on a mission to uncover the corruption going on at OCP and the corruption taking over the city. And it's really cool. It's a very gory game, and so when I played it on the PS5, it looked really good, but it had like these frame issues where it would like be at 30 or dip below a little bit. Once I got the PS5 Pro and put it on there, smooth, man, smooth as butter. Looks super good. You could even do the performance mode, which is like a very, very solid, smooth 60 frames, and it still looks really good. It's the PSSR, I think, does a really good job of up resing stuff, while giving you that performance boost that you want in a game. So either mode you play, quality or performance, I think you're gonna like it on the PS5 Pro. I do recommend it for those that have the right TV for it. Again, if you have just like a regular TV, it may or may not suit what you want out of it. If you already have a PS5 in general and you don't have like a TV that will match what a pro is needed, then it might not be worth upgrading. But if you have no console at all and you're looking to get a PS5, the Pro is actually probably the way to go. This PSSR stuff that they're coming out with, or that they already came out with, and they're implementing, it's in its early phases right now. So it's kind of like growing pains are happening right now, and a lot of people are upset because some of these patches that the developers are putting out are not fully finished, so they're kind of like half-assed. And I get it to an extent why a developer for an older game that's already been released would not want to go back and start fiddling with it, and they're going to release a patch that they're not going to make money on in their mind, right? I mean, it could still sell, games and all that. It could still do more sales, but in their minds, they're probably not going to get that return on investment for using the PSSR and making a pro patch. But the future games, now the future is where I'm really like trying to invest in. Um, I have a PC, but it's already on its last legs in terms of like keeping up with modern day gaming, and the PS5 was pretty much equivalent to the PC I had, which is why I would like take turns either the PC or PS5. But the Pro definitely does better than my PC. So that's why I'm like mainly gaming on the console now. And like I said, I think if you have the right TV for it, it's definitely a worthy purchase. And actually, the most recent game I played was another older game that I had beaten before, but never gotten around to the DLCs. So, um, Final Fantasy 16. Have you guys ever played the Final Fantasies?
I have not. Not. I mean, I know all of them. The only one I came really close to playing was none of them.
So you're not a fan, I take it. Um,
Who's the one that did the team up with Disney? Was that them?
um,
Or is that Kingdom Hearts? Or what was
Yeah,
it?
Kingdom Hearts
yes.
with Final Fantasy.
That
Yeah,
is fine. That was about the closest I came to playing, but I'm like, nah, I'm good.
yeah. I played the one where there's the mini soccer thing internally. I forget which version that one is, but I did play that one and Final Fantasy 7. Those are the only two Final Fantasies. But this 16 looks very, very promising. I really want to try to play it, but I heard it's not that great on a base PlayStation 5. So you played it on the Pro?
Yeah, well, I originally beat the game, the main campaign on the PS5. And this is like a while back. This is like almost a year now or 6 months plus. But the DLCs, I was like, no, I'm gonna wait until later on. I want to have that itch to play again. And now that I have the Pro, I'm like, let me get around to it and just see what do they do. And so there's two DLCs. I played the better one first, which was the second DLC, versus the first one, which is like lackluster. It did have like some new story elements and some cutscenes and stuff, but the second one was the main DLC, Rising Tide, I believe it's called. That one was the one that had the more like beefy content, the more monsters and stuff you could fight, and the better cutscenes and just overall development. You actually get a new power, you get a new ability, and new things you could do with that. So it was very cool to see that game again, and definitely runs smoother, looks great. It's one of the best looking games to me on the PS5. One of the best looking games, period, man. Like it just looks phenomenal, man. Everything, the environments, it all pops, and the abilities are very cool too. If once you get used to the combat system, it's a very easy and kind of like you become overpowered. So it becomes like a little bit too easy. But thankfully, there are difficulty modes you can raise it. And when you play New Game Plus, I think it also unlocks like Final Fantasy mode. And that mode it just creates like more challenge for you because the enemy's health is just ridiculous. And so you're going to be having like very long battles with each character that you fight. But yeah, I would say again, the PS5 Pro, if you have it, all these games are worthy of playing on there, and it's going to run great. Um, I have a few other titles I'm looking to play. At this time, I'm not really sure exactly what to jump into. I was actually trying to play God of War Ragnarok Valhalla DLC, so I'm trying to get back into that one. And that one had a pro patch as well, and it looks great, man. It's insane. Like watching it, like playing it again, it's like playing it for the first time with the pro, you know. So I'm like, okay, like I'm excited for this one. This one also has I think 8 hours of content, something like that, and it's got cutscenes. It's got like new story elements to it, so it's really expanding on it, and it really feels that way. So it's I mean, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I keep hearing that the PlayStation 5, like the Pro, like you mentioned, you really need that TV or something with the VRR to take advantage of it, because the big boost that it does is it gives you, for the most part, solid frame rates of 60 for most games, and then it still gives you that 4K or that 1440 resolution, so you get like the best of both worlds. But yeah, if you don't have VRR, when you get those slight dips in the 60 where it hits like 55, you're going to see that stutter. But with VRR, it's going to be like consistent 60 for the most part.
100% right, dude. It's definitely a must to have a VRR setup, and yeah, again, I think it's worthy of the price point. Some people will disagree. I actually before I bought it, I was on the fence, and honestly, what made me get it, it was trying to help out one of my brothers who he's had a PS5, he's PS4 for I think since it came out, man. So it's what like almost 10 years now at this point, and he never got the PS4 Pro. So he was on the base PS4 playing all the modern games, and I kind of felt bad because he's been wanting a PS5 for a while, and so I kind of worked out this deal. I was like, okay, you know, his kids also wanted, my nephews, they also wanted it, and I'm like, okay, how about this? You know, instead of giving you a Christmas gift and then for next year giving you your birthday and Christmas gift, I'll lump all those gifts into this, you know, gift right here of the PS5. So I ended up giving them my old PS5, and then I was like, this is my reason to upgrade to the Pro now. And so, you know, I felt like I did a good deed as well as, you know, getting a new toy here to play with. Um, and yeah, so I mean, tis the season, right, to give. So that's why I was like, all right, you know, this is probably like a good move for me, and this will hopefully last me many years to come. You know, I think the console generation is typically around 8 years, so they're saying like PS6 won't be until like 2028. So that means, you know, there are 3 4 years of gaming on this one. So I'm excited for Onimusha, which one's announced.
Oh
And
yeah, did you see that? Man, that looks so
yeah.
cool because I'm an Musha fan. The
Hmm.
first one was awesome, and the remaster that they did, where they like upres some of the graphics, that one was super cool. Part two is awesome. Number three is good too, with that French actor. I forget his name. Um, but yeah, man, the whole series is really good, and I saw their trailer during the Game Awards, and I was just like, yes, man, this looks awesome.
Exactly, dude. And with Ghost of Tsushima being as successful as it was, my hope is that like their combat and their style is going to be similar to that. Um, and the ability now with gaming, you could do so much with this IP, bro. And it's been a long time since we've gotten a new Onimusha. I believe all three of those were on PS2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I know quite a few were. So, no, that's an awesome trailer that they released. I think they're still a few years out because it looked mostly CG. It didn't look like in game. So, yeah, who knows when that new one will come out?
Yeah, no, I'm sure it'll be a bit, but I'm excited to play it on the Pro and see what they do with it. And there's actually a few other games too coming up that I'm excited for that were announced. But like I said, right now I got a little backlog here. I might be stepping into the God of War Valhalla and see how that goes. But actually, another one that I've been wanting to see and ask you about, and I see it's on your list here, is Guardians of the Galaxy. So it looks like you finished it, dude. How did you like it?
Yeah, man, Guardians of the Galaxy. That one was a good game. I actually bought it last Thanksgiving, last Black Friday, not this one that just passed, and it was. something where I tried like twice to play it, but I just wasn't in the mood. And so I finally got to it, finally decided, all right, let me jump into it, let me play it. And I'm glad I did because, for I think it's Eidos, the one that made this game. For that, it was such a good game. It had a whole different cast. So it's not the movie Guardians of the Galaxy guys. So these are all recasted new characters, new voice actors. They don't look even like the movies. So that's kind of cool, but not cool. Uh, Most people would want to see the same characters come over, but at the same time, it does give it a different feel. It has a lot of the funny parts of the Guardians. There's a lot of banter back and forth, good or bad, because as you're playing and you're trying to concentrate doing things, these guys just won't stop talking, and there's like background banter between the all the characters. But I gotta say, man, the game was very good. I'm glad I didn't give up on it, even though the other two times that I tried it, I kind of wasn't in the mood for it, so I kind of just put it down. But very cool, very good game. Glad I finished it. I'm not sure if you're like that, Noel, but now, since time is limited, if I don't feel a game like almost instantly, I drop it and not drop it and never play it again. But I'm just like, I'll have to come back when I'm more in the mood and I can play it.
Dude, it's funny you say that. I literally played this game called Observation a day or two ago, and it's a really interesting story, but there's a lot of game mechanics that like were like tedious, and it like bugged me, and I was like, man, like I don't think I have the time for this right now. Like I'm getting upset here, and I shouldn't be. So I'm like, let me put it down. I'll come back to this later when I have like more patience.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I did notice that because I logged in and I was seeing what you and Efren were playing, and I noticed that you were playing quite a few games. I would just assume you were trying out the pro stuff and trying out new games and see if there's a big difference. And I saw you were playing some like indie smaller games. But yeah, man, for sure, time is limited. I'm not as young as I used to be. I got work, I got a family, I got stuff I got to do here in the house, groceries and whatnot. So I can't just game for a 12-hour session in a row. So definitely time is limited. If I'm not feeling it, I jump off and I come back when I am in the mood so I can play it. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, you should try it out. It's probably in the bargain bin right now, so I'm sure you could pick it up for a couple bucks. But yeah, man, when I'm not gaming, like I mentioned, I'm usually spending time with the family or watching some movies. Watched a couple movies with Alana a few days ago. One of them was Superman, and not the Superman movie, but the Christopher Reeve story. Not sure if you guys even heard about this. I know it's on HBO Max. Did you guys even hear about this movie coming out?
I didn't.
No, no, I haven't heard about that one.
Yeah, I'm a big Superman fan, especially the original Christopher Reeve um, movies, the four movies that he starred in. But this movie is more on the character of Christopher Reeve and his story, how he grew up, how he got the role for Superman, and then his battle after he became paralyzed from having a horse riding accident. So it's a documentary, hour and a half or something like that, but very well put together. It just came out just recently, I think within the last month or two. Like I mentioned, HBO and HBO Max. And man, I was a real big fan of Christopher Reeve in the past, and I still am. But the movie kind of goes a little bit into, you know, the perception that maybe he's like this, big actor, or at least in the Superman movies, and how he was a real advocate for these foundations. But it actually goes on to that he's a human and he made some mistakes in his past, and in particular, he grew up in kind of a broken home, and so he always advocated to raise his kids and stay married with his wife forever, and and whatnot, because he wanted to give his family a stable life. But he actually ended up, separating from his first um, wife or girlfriend, because they actually never even got married, even though they were together and had two kids together. But the documentary is very cool, man. It goes into a lot of his struggles with the paralysis from the spinal cord injury, and it has the sons and daughters in the interviews and kind of giving some backstory to their dad. It shows a lot of the parts of Robin Williams because Robin Williams was a big Christopher Reeve fan. They were really friends with each other. In the background, they came up together in some of their acting classes that they were taking, some of the drama theater that they were doing. And yeah, man, it was a really well put together documentary, kind of showing his struggles, even with the movies, with the later movies, especially with Superman 3 and 4, with them not turning out the way he wanted to, and kind of how he didn't want to do them anymore. And after 2, he was kind of like, I'm, done with this character, but the studios insisted, and he came back. But yeah, man, Christopher Reed shows him in a real world atmosphere, and kind of shows the character of him uh growing through the struggles of his disability. Yeah, I'm sure you guys knew that he was disabled and with paralysis and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was a horse rider or like equestrian or whatever, a horse riding thing. And then, yeah, I knew, I didn't know about the not Christopher, Robin Williams thing. I don't know, they came up together, like took, two different trajectories and stuff. And then Christopher Reeve did a lot of movies after Superman. I think that people failed to recognize that. And he took some serious
Right.
roles. Um, and that's like when you wear that suit, man, it comes with a lot of baggage, and a lot of previous Supermans went through similar things when they try to move on from that. And um, the guy before him, the one that did the TV show, the black and white one, he had issues after the show wrapped up and stuff like that. So I mean, to get to the type of work, but Christopher Reeve succeeded. Is just a lot of the movies weren't successful, or they just think of him as Superman.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this kind of goes into that, how he was going to use Superman as like a catapult to do these other movies, but they just never panned out. And he ended up having to take whatever work he can get. He had to do
Right.
like TV spots and
Mm.
whatnot, commercials to kind of try to get something going because, unfortunately, his acting career didn't take off. And yeah, he was good friends with Robin Williams. Um, and yeah, man, it was a good documentary. I'm a big Superman fan. Like I mentioned a few years ago, went to see Superman when it was in the theaters. They re-showed it, the original part one, and it was just awesome seeing them on the big screen again. Even though, it's years later the movie had come out, but yeah, good documentary. Um, really recommend it for you people out there to go check it out if you're a Superman fan or you're interested in the Christopher Reeve backstory. But something else that I watched was it wasn't a documentary. It was more like a biographical drama, and it was Reagan. This also came out just this year, and it's on Paramount, I think. No, it's on Amazon Prime. But I didn't have Amazon, so I had to find a different way to watch it. And man, I kind of regret not watching this in the theater, just because I wanted to support it because I think Ronald Reagan was a great president, even though he gets a bad rap in certain aspects. But I think he was a great president. He was really down to earth, really grounded president, and more of a common man, I guess, than most people give him credit for. He had a ton of Christian values, so I really dig that. And he pulled us through some tough situations with the Soviets, dealing with the Contra fiasco, and just being a president during some tough times with inflation kind of being out of control, kind of reminiscing to, what we're dealing with now. And he really pulled the country through, man, really successful. Had some kind of outlandish thoughts too with the Star Wars program and a few other things that he wanted to, you know, get off the floor. But Yeah, man, a really cool movie. It stars Dennis Quaid as Reagan, and dude, Dennis Quaid. I saw a picture next to each other of them. He has like these mannerisms that, man, it looks like Ronald Reagan almost. So very good portrayal of Ronald Reagan. Had another big Republican in the movie. John Wade is in the movie, and he's a huge Republican. So really cool movie. I'm not sure if you, Noel, did you even know that Ronald Reagan had a biographical pick out?
I didn't know about that actually. I was gonna start looking it up because that's news to me. But I do agree. He probably was one of the more influential and like positively well received presidents. Um, he actually kind of reminds me of like the modern day, like how Trump is now. It kind of reminds me of like that because I mean, this guy was an actor, right? Who became president, if I'm not mistaken, Reagan.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And Trump is like, well, he's a businessman, but he's also done acting. I mean, cameos, I guess, but it's like it's similar. It's like here we are 30 years later, right? But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Did you know about this movie, Andy?
No, yeah, I heard about it. I didn't. There wasn't a lot of publicity for it, but I did hear about it through some of the uh, YouTube stuff that I watch. Um, but I've seen other movies about Reagan and other documentaries. I read his book. Um, so yeah, I know of him and stuff like that. And the Star Wars thing, I know a lot of people like to mock him for that, but that that's one of the things that helped defeat communism. And they actually they it was a lot of things. It was a big ask, but they've got something like Star Wars in place. I mean, I'm not be fucking laser some space, but they do have things to help it. And if you look what the U.S. sold to Israel with the Iron Dome, that's a part of that. That
Right.
fucking missiles being shot into the air to shoot down other missiles, and that's all because Reagan asked for that in the early '80s.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of knew a bit of Ronald Reagan, but there was some parts even in the movie that I didn't realize. I didn't realize that he was divorced, that he had been
Mm-hmm.
married before.
Yeah.
He was divorced, and I knew he was like a horse rider, but I didn't know he was so like passionate about it. The movie kind of shows him, really riding up until the end, because he got diagnosed with Alzheimer's and then ended up, kind of going downhill from there. But yeah, man, I didn't know he was such an avid horse rider that he really had a passion and took it around with him wherever he went.
And yeah, he's from Illinois. If I remember, Dixon, Illinois.
Right.
He was a sportscaster. He did play by play for baseball games. He was an actor. He was a union boss. He did a lot of things. I mean, his movies weren't the best. I mean, but he's probably best known as the Gipper for the new Rockney All American movie. Um, so he's done a lot for America. He loved this country, and yeah, I mean, he got into politics really late. He was a governor of California, and then he became president, and he ushered a lot of, the greed is good thing. A lot of people in this country in the '80s because of Reagan made a shit ton of money, and I think that's what made him so popular. I mean, he doesn't have, he's not all perfect. Yeah, he made some mistakes, but overall, he did pretty good.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like to bring up about how he kind of squeezed and kind of hurt like the lower class to a certain point and made it more difficult for them. But with the mountain of inflation that he had, he's like, you know, I've worked in government before and I've balanced my books at home. So the only way you can balance it is you got to cut. So
Hmm.
he cut a ton of programs, cut a ton of aid for people. And yes, he did balance the government and made it to where um, it was sustainable and even got to the point where the government was making money again, so they could pay off more debt and get into a better position. So Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is something similar that maybe Trump's going to have to do, and it's going to be tough before it gets better, for sure. So, like Noel mentioned, maybe it's a little bit of mirroring of what Reagan did. Oh, hopefully, it doesn't come where we're on the edge of launching nukes over to Russia, because the movie, I don't know if they made it like a drama of it or if it was actually fact, but that the sensors were picking up geese that were flying over and they thought that the Russians were
Hmm.
shooting nukes to us. So they were getting ready to retaliate and shoot nukes back. But Reagan held off and then, avoided sending missiles for nothing. So,
There's this story I heard real quick. There was that TV miniseries the day after. I don't know if you guys remember that or if you ever seen it, where what happens if the U.S. and
that's the
Russia
name of
have a
it, day
nuclear
after?
war the day after.
Okay.
Um, and they put it on channel on ABC, and it did like a tons of ratings. And that movie or TV show miniseries had an impact, from my understanding, from Reagan of like how people deal with after an attack and what to do, the cleanup and all this other stuff. And supposedly, I mean, if I remember correctly, it's one of the reasons he tried to get that the nuclear peace treaty with Russia, because that movie had that TV show. I'm sorry, the miniseries had a big impact on him, and you saw how people were affected after the strikes, the nuclear strikes.
For sure. Yeah, I know that that was a big part of his presidency, the
Hmm.
disarmament
The
as
disarmament,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, the disarmament as well as the dropping of the wall in Berlin. That was another big
Hmm.
thing that he will be remembered for years. But yeah, man, great movie. Really suggested for everybody out there. Wish I would have supported it when it was in the theaters, but now it's on Amazon Prime, so go check it out. But guys, let's jump into this article of the week. All right, guys. Hot off the presses, man. Fox 5 New York article. Will the McDonald's worker who called 911 on Luigi get a reward? So this is an article I ran across the other day, and it kind of talks about the reward that was up for Luigi, the gentleman that allegedly, just because he hasn't been prosecuted, but I think most people know that he was the killer that killed that United Healthcare CEO.
There's still
Shot.
debate on that if it's him or not. If you go on X.
I have seen stuff like that, like his eyebrows don't look the
Yes.
same and
Yeah.
this and that, but I think this is the guy. But due process. We'll see what comes out from
Yeah.
the courts. But the article talks more about the reward money. I guess they were up to like $60,000. And the article kind of goes into some more details, but I'll hit some high notes here. $60,000 for reward from the FBI. But in order to get the money, it has to be for a tip or information, for an arrest and conviction, which I always found kind of odd that these rewards are contingent on a conviction. The NYPD Crime Stopper, they award 3,500, but it's also dependent on his arrest and conviction. The detective Brewer raised the 3,500 to 10,000, so there's that money. But unfortunately, the McDonald's worker, when he called Crime Stopper to, ID Luigi that he was in McDonald's, he did it anonymously. So now there's more questions as to who would get the money if they do get the money at all. And something else the article brings up is that sometimes this could take some time, a year or even more, because it has to go to trial and he has to be found guilty. So I never really looked into it so much. I mean, not that I've been in a position to even call a tip hotline for something. But yeah, I didn't know if you guys knew that, to get this money, it would take so long. Noel, I know you kind of knew a little bit about this case. Not sure if you knew about the reward stipulations in general or even in this case.
And no, actually, this is the first time hearing about like all these prerequisites to get your reward. Like they don't really say that either. If they imagine if they said that up front, they probably get barely any calls. But it's interesting. I don't know if he will get it. And going off of Andy, I heard that as well that this guy might not be him. And I when I saw the videos and the screenshots of like the still images of the guy when he had the hoodie over himself, I'm like, I can't definitively say that this is that guy, dude. But I don't know, right? Like I don't know personally, and I think, yeah, it's hard to believe that they would have the wrong guy and be so confident about it. So I'm like, I don't know at this point.
Yeah, and did you know about the stipulations for the rewards
I
or?
knew there was two types, like for the arrest, and then I knew for the arrest and conviction. Usually, if it's high profile, they put in the conviction because it's a lot of money. In New York is like notorious for paying for people for information and for the arrest, but it doesn't shock me for the conviction. Um, but I'm shocked this person called it in and they're entitled to some. I think they should get it if for the arrest because uh, or at least the company offers something. I mean, $60,000 in New York. It's a lot of money, man. Especially if you're working at McDonald's. I mean, I think they probably, if they're lucky, they make half of that in a year if they work full time. So, yeah, I mean, I think that person is entitled to something, or at least the arrest, like a G or two. But and then if they get the conviction, they get the money. There's always a big thing with these the big ones like the FBI's most wanted, uh, like the one with the cartel in Mexico. I'm just having I can't think of his name. The uh, Chapo. Somebody turned them in. So uh, the twins or whatever helped the FBI. I'm like, are they? I think he had like a 5 million bounty or something. So I'm like, do they get that money or not if you're working for them? So yeah, I mean, to me personally, I think for this one, people were having a really hard time trying to see who he was. And then there's just this one thing where he's flirting with a chick, right? And then, yeah, people started looking at the eyebrows and all this other stuff. And then people started releasing information that supposedly he had like a bad back and he was depressed because he couldn't work out and like all this stuff. His family's like super rich. They got these high powered attorneys. Like it's almost like some Oswald stuff here. And then did you see the picture of him being walked out to court or something? And he was dressed like Oswald, and the cops were like the two officers are walking him out, Oswald, before he got shot. I mean, the only thing that was missing was like a cowboy hat. And I was just like, oh man, this is not good. They're setting this guy up when I saw that picture.
Yeah, I guess there's things about the rewards, but just speaking on the case in general, do you think there's a chance this guy can get free? I mean, you brought up how he's got high power attorneys. Is there a possibility this guy can get off?
I think so. There's a lot of sympathy for him,
That's the other thing
especially
that is weird. Yeah.
yeah, in the media. They're like, oh, these CEOs and making all this money and like this guy's. And I'm granted, it's the insurance company. They have a track record. It's not the best. They denied a lot of people stuff. It's a process. It's one of the things that's problem with our healthcare system. But to go out there and shoot somebody in broad, not in broad daylight, but it's recorded, and people in the news media were like, I don't want to say cheer for it allegedly, but they were not like, well, they had something had to drive him to this. He probably got denied coverage or something like that. They were like stating a case for him, and I'm just like, ooh, like it seems like they're fine with this.
Yeah, I do get that sense as well that a lot of people have sympathy and kind of cheer on, take down, you know, the big guy, people that, the one percenters or whatever you want to call them. And yeah, man, it's kind of nutso, man. I think if you
It's
do the crime,
lawlessness.
yeah, yeah, if you do a crime, you have to pay for it. It can't be in the eyes of the public whether it's acceptable or not. It's kind of got to be just black and white. You killed somebody, you got to pay for it. It doesn't matter if you killed Hitler, if you killed him while he's walking down the street and he's not a prisoner of war or anything like that. I mean, it's like, man, I find it kind of difficult
It's
to
like
wrap my head around it.
that guy that killed that homeless guy that was like harassing the train people, the subway
Oh
people
yeah,
in
yeah.
New York, and he got off. I'm like, well, he was still alive when they took him on the ambulance that did come out.
Right,
So
because he like choked him or something, right?
yeah, to me, I think that guy should have done manslaughter or something, like couple years and then be off of good behavior, like because yeah, he did something. He fucked up somebody, and you got to pay the price for that. That's what happens when you fight in the streets, man. Like you kill somebody, you're in trouble. Even though it's self defense, if you do that, you're in trouble. So I was shocked how he got off, to be honest with you. I thought for sure they were gonna throw that guy in jail forever, but I mean, it's a turning of the tide in this country, and then like, and people were out, there was a lot of outrage on this one and this one, and you don't see that. It's just people are like, well, yeah, man, like, what do you expect to this insurance company, blah, blah, blah. And you saw the CEOs of healthcare's taking their pictures out of, of their websites and stuff. So nobody's promoting that they're CEOs of companies because now they're all nervous.
Yeah, I think there is a chance this guy could get off, but I hope not. Because to your point, even that guy that choked out, the guy that was harassing people, I get it. Self defense, which it wasn't even really self defense. It was more like he got up to defend somebody that was getting harassed, which I am
Right.
for as well. So I just think it shouldn't have gone that far. I think the part that got him off is that he was technically alive when the authorities came. So he died in the process of going to the ambulance or whatever it was. So I think that's the reason why he got
And
off.
and to the other stuff that came out, the police, the subway police in New York or the transport, they knew of that guy. He had a track record of harassing other passengers and doing bad stuff, and they knew of him, and they didn't really do much about it. They just had records of him, and then this happened to him. So I think that's what helped them in this case too.
Right. But back to Luigi, to me, this is totally different. This is him blatantly trying to kill him. So if it's found that it is him, which I do think it's kind of him, I don't agree with the eyebrow thing. I think that's just kind of going out a little bit on a stretch. But yeah, if it was
It's
him,
evidence, Dan. It's
he
evidence.
he killed a guy. I mean, this guy is like a hardcore Italian guy.
Oh
Italians
man,
grow Italian guys. Well, he's Italian, right? That's
his name
his.
is indicates that he's Italian.
No, well, I think his heritage, his parents are Italian. I'm saying. Uh,
Yeah, they
so
own like yeah, and the family owns like nursing homes or something. Like they're in the healthcare industry.
right. So them guys, they're hairy people to begin with. They grow hair. They're like Latinos, man. They grow hair like crazy, man. If you don't pluck those eyebrows, they get out of control. So I think it's him. But whatever the case would be, hopefully, if he is innocent and it's not him, he gets off. But I think if he's found that it is him, this guy needs to serve time because you can't just go around shooting people just because you feel like it or you think it's
Going
just.
going back to the article real quick, this just popped in my head. Do you think the reason the workers getting such a hard time because they called in anonymously? They would have gone like, I'm John Doe, fry guy at McDonald's, and this guy's here and this getting a McGriddle. Like, you guys gonna
Well,
come? He's like, hey man, I'm no snitch or nothing, but there's a guy where you just like hang up.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you have to say, Noel, about it, but to me, like for El Chapo, I probably would have done it anonymous because I don't want the cartel coming after me. And to be honest, maybe this Luigi guy, they didn't know enough about him, and this person was kind of hesitant. Like, hey, is this like some cartel guy? Is this some like Taliban guy? I don't want to get in trouble or get people after me. So anonymously to stop the threat. So what
Imagine
are
the
your
phone. I imagine the phone calls like from Blood and Blood Out won't obey it. Popeye's calling the cops.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No. That's what I'm imagining the phone call is. Big deal going down tomorrow. That's what I'm imagining that phone call from the McDonald's worker is.
No, that's hilarious. I remember that scene very well.
And the
Oh
payphone,
man,
remember that?
yeah, that whole movie, man. That guy he was a questionable character, but he was funny for sure. Um,
Popular guy.
yeah, man. With Luigi, I don't know. I'd be hesitant myself to make that call, dude. I definitely probably would be anonymous, which would definitely make it hard to get the reward, but it's safer that way, I think. I don't think you want to take a chance when it comes to something like this. Going to what Daniel said about the Italian thing, maybe he's connected. You never know who he knows, right? So do
Yeah, I
you want to snitch
guess.
on this guy? Freaking Tony Soprano comes knocking on your door, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, even with all this tide of people kind of, supporting him, what if you take the reward money, your name comes out, and then now people kind of see you and target you because you're like, why'd you put Luigi behind bars? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if 60,000 is enough for me. Maybe I need a little bit more so I could skip the country and change my identity.
Or any reason then, or if it's like people I make a living off of this, or I'm thinking just constantly looking at like Crime Stoppers and all this for reward money. Is that something you think you can do? If you see something on TV like, oh, we think this guy's a mass murderer, the serial killer, like you
I,
think you see him, are you gonna call that in and go, what's the reward money on this?
no, I probably wouldn't ask, but I do pay attention to stuff like that. Like when I see the Amber Alerts, I pay attention to the kids that they show up. I pay attention to, kind of people that are being wanted by the police. Not so that I could become a hero and start, um,
Start a
what's
podcast.
what's that Hawaiian guy? The,
Hawaiian guy.
the guy from Hawaii, the
Magnum
dog
PI.
dog the bounty hunter. I'm not gonna become a
Oh,
bounty
dog.
hunter. Yeah, and start chasing after these guys. But for sure, I do want to try to help society if there's some kind of lunatic on the loose. But yeah, uh, I think I would call, but I'd probably stay anonymous myself, to be honest.
They're like, there's a $5,000 reward here. What's your name? And you're like, click, or you're gonna be like, I'm Noel
I'm just gonna
Corral or something.
be like, I'm Andy. send, send my money over here.
Send it to Zelle. Here's you got a phone. I could Zelle you my code thing here. Yeah,
Uh,
man. It's yeah. I don't know, man. I think I would that's why I said by the time they announced it, did they release a picture? They released the picture of the person of interest, which was him, and then why would he go to McDonald's? I mean, that's the only thing. Like to me, it's strange. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. And like his behavior lately doesn't he pleaded not guilty, if I remember correctly. So we'll see what happens. Final thoughts, but on the article, yeah, I think that worker should get the full thing. Even uh, so, if something happened while he in jail, that person's not going to get anything. I mean, they should get something for at least getting them arrested.
yeah, I think they should change it to where if it's 60 grand, maybe 20 is if he gets arrested and 40 is if he gets
A
convicted.
conviction,
Yeah.
yeah. But final thoughts on that, Noel? You think that person's entitled to the money?
Because they're taking the risk and all that. Yeah, I mean it's already done deal. And it did lead to the arrest, so it was like an actionable intel. It wasn't like a lie, and he just made up stuff. It actually worked, and it got him arrested. So I guess if you offer the reward, it's only just that you fulfill it. But whether he should have called, and that's a whole nother story. So. But we'll have to see how it all unfolds, regardless, and we'll see how the trial and all that stuff plays out. I think there's a lot of news coverage, so we'll keep our audience filled in as it progresses. But we do have to wrap things up for this episode here. We want to thank everybody for joining us on the Freeform Network. If you're not already, please follow us on X at FFR Podcast. And if you have any questions or suggestions for topics, things like that, anything you want to hear in 2025, anything you think we could do better and improve the podcast, please send all that to ffnquestions@gmail.com. From Freeform Radio, my name is Noel, and we have Daniel.
Yes, sir, man. Enjoying this warmish weather, man. Thinking about maybe busting out some shorts, man. We'll have to see.
Oh man, don't speak too soon. I see the weather's gonna be changing pretty soon, so
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you enjoy while it lasts, I guess. And Andy, we have Andy here.
It's all good, Andy. Want to thank you guys for listening, and we're gonna start off this year, 2025. We're looking at it to be another good year for Freeform Network and radio.
Most definitely. Well, we wish you a great night and a beautiful tomorrow.
That was cool, Dad.